shut up, you listen to my monkey mouth. There's a companion when you got pun on the Kanoa route. Hopped in a portal and got in a fight, Elias knocked him out. Bow, Naruto fighting style. Bow, UFC he tapped out. Bow, we win, we get crowned. Monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth.
Alrighty, Armchair Army, welcome back to another edition of Armchair Mixed Martial Arts, and on this episode we're going to be reviewing UFC 281. It was a hell of a fight card. Before we get to it, though, I do want to go over the fight cards just really briefly that happened between UFC 280 and 281. So the first set of fights that happened between then and now was the UFC Fight Night Cater versus Allen, and this was a really, really unfortunate way for the main event to go. This one, Arnold Allen got the second round TKO finish, but let's be honest, it was super suspect, right? Calvin Kattar, on not even his lead leg, right? He ate a leg kick, kind of checked it, and as he stepped back, his back leg just gave out. You could see his knee pop real bad. So he folded, had to go to the ground, got swarmed. That was that. You know, the guy's leg was clearly compromised. And that's how the fight goes sometimes, you know. You don't want to take anything away from Arnold Allen, right? He's on his way to a title shot, and this isn't like the type of win that you want to get to like make your case for a title shot. So, a little bit of a speed bump on the way of Arnold Allen's hype train, but I'm a big believer in Arnold Allen. He's looked nothing but fantastic every time that I've seen him fight so far. So yeah, I'm really high on Arnold Allen. Bet on him when he fights. Although now he's going for like championship fights and literally only fighting against guys at the tip of the spear, so it might be a little harder to gamble on him. But if you'd been gambling on him on the way up, man, there was good money to be made. Tim Means lost a 3-round decision to Max Griffin in a well-fought fight. Waldo Cortez Acosta won a decision over Jared Vanderaa, which Jared Vanderaa has been kind of having a tough go of it recently. Tresean T-Rex Gore got a hellacious submission over Josh Fremd. That was a really violent looking thing. Josh Fremd did everything that he was supposed to get out of that choke, and T-Rex damn near took his head off anyways. Khalil Roundtree won a 3-round decision over Dustin Jacoby. This one seemed a little suspect. Somebody in the comments of one of my little shorts that I made said they thought it was clearly 2 rounds to 1 in the way of Dustin Jacoby, but I don't know. Ultimately, I'm not the judge on that one, and I didn't have a huge opinion on it. Moving forward, there was Marina Rodriguez versus Amanda Lemos, and Amanda Lemos got a 3rd round TKO finish, standing finish, a minute into the 3rd round. Just absolutely swarmed Marina after hitting her with a big left hook. Backed her up to the cage, was just bombing all over her. Marina definitely disputed the stoppage, but I watched it live. I didn't feel too bad about it then. I also rewatched the highlight of it before I recorded now, and I felt like it was an appropriate stoppage then too. So, you know, I don't know. Maybe she's just not going to be a fan of the podcast. Either way, I got to speak the truth, Marina. It is what it is. Sorry. Like and follow, subscribe. Anyways. Neil Magny, at 3 minutes and 33 seconds into the 3rd round, locked up a Darce choke on Daniel Rodriguez and officially surpassed GSP for wins at welterweight. And, that's as far as I want to go back on that one. Hell, we don't need to talk about the fights between there and then too much. But wow, the UFC 281 was just an absolutely stacked card from top to bottom. I watched every single fight. Matt Steamroller Frivola fighting in front of the home crowd, got it super done. TKO halfway through the first round. Karolina Kowalkiewicz got a decision win. Early prelim fights. Preliminary card. Renato Moicano looked great. Submitted Brad Riddell like a little over 3 minutes into the first round. And it was nice to see Renato looking good in there, because I believe the last time I saw him fight, he was getting his face turned into hamburger meat by RDA. It was a really, really tough night at the office for Renato that night, and so I'm glad that I'm putting some fresh memories of him looking good between there and then in my mind. Also, in not the best news in terms of just pure wanting to watch fights, Brad Riddell is stepping away from the sport to see if the Fire Ford will come back. That sucks. This is a fight in front of his home crowd, and he's saying that the spark just isn't there no more. He's been fighting for forever, so I hope that it's what's right for him. At the end of the day, these guys are human beings before they're fighters, and I hope that he absolutely is making the decision that's right for him, and that he's happy with his decisions. Selfishly, I'd love to see him keep fighting, but the God honest human in me is just hopeful that he's making the right decision for him and that he's happy with it. And no matter what, I'm going to try and be supportive. But the big bit of news on the prelims was Ryan Superman Spann training out of Texas, which I picked Dominic Reyes in this one, and that was clearly a mistake. I thought that this was going to be Dominic's bounce back fight, and it turns out it's actually Ryan's coming out party. And so I'm just super pumped for Ryan. I can't believe that I picked against a fighter from Texas. I'm such an idiot. The one time I pick against a fighter from Texas, right? But either way, super pumped for him. Things are getting really dicey for Dominic Reyes at this point. That's a tough skid. Real tough skid that he's on right now. We're going to see what comes next for him. I'm certain it's going to be somebody limping into the top 15 to see how he does. But next for Ryan Spann, man, put the fucking jetpacks on. Put the engaged rocket thrusters. Let's fucking go. Let's see him against some of the very, like the guys beyond Dominic Reyes, right? Dominic Reyes is a top talent. And so anybody beyond Dominic Reyes is going to be a really, really interesting matchup for Ryan Spann. And I can't wait to see him, to be just really honest, man. Ryan Spann's a big, strong, athletic, exciting Texan who I love to watch fight. And so whatever comes of it next for him, it's going to be a fun fight. And I'm most certainly going to be able to consider myself the winner that night. On to the main card. Man, this shit was stacked, bro. Dan Hooker, my man, finally got back in the win column. He'd been having a tough go of it, y'all, for real. Dan's one of those guys who, like I said in the last podcast, they don't do many favors for him. Just to be real honest, he takes the fights that they give him, and it's always him against dudes who are on absolute hot streaks, who are coming up to conquer the world, and it's just been bad timing. The stars have not been aligning for Dan. And frankly, Claudio Puelles was on the come up. He's a jiu-jitsu ace and several wins in a row. And, this was going to be potentially his coming out party. Again, it's like people keep having their coming out parties against Dan Hooker. And it's a tragedy because Dan Hooker is such a nice guy. such a great fighter and athlete. But today was Dan Hooker's day, which I say today. Today's Wednesday, the Wednesday following. It's not today. Saturday was Dan Hooker's day, though, man. He got the job done in the second round. About a minute left in the second round, so 9 minutes into the fight. Just got to where Claudio could not get Dan to the ground, right? Claudio got Dan to the ground in the first round with one of his flop on the ground, grab the foot, rolling heel hook things that jiu-jitsu guys do. And I feel like he pretty effectively won that round with the control time and the submission attempts. But Dan clearly won all the striking exchanges whenever they were having striking exchanges. But still, round went to Claudio in my mind. But in the second round, Claudio was clearly a little bit tired, right? His gas tank had been taxed a little bit due to all the grappling. And Dan was wise to his primary takedown tactic. And Claudio never really even got close to taking down Dan again. And the takedown attempts just got more desperate and more taxing on the gas tank. And it just got to where he was very, very exhausted, and Dan was still bouncing around, ready to go. And he started busting that ass, especially in the second half of the second round. And he kept hitting Claudio with these teep kicks up the middle to the diaphragm, and finally hit him with one, and it folded him up. And the ref saw the look in Claudio's eye and knew it was a wrap. Called the fight, winner by TKO, Dan Hooker. I can't wait to see what they're going to do next for him. Hopefully it isn't such a goddamn miserable matchup. Something that he can win, something that he can keep building his brand and keep moving in a positive direction, and then maybe start throwing him way back into the deep end with the big sharks again. But I'm certain that Mick Maynard and them, they know what they're doing. They've got a clear idea of what they want to do. At bantamweight, oh man, Frankie Edgar. Sad day for MMA, right? Frankie the Answer Edgar has retired. And he went out the way you go out in this sport. It wasn't literally face down, ass up, because he got sent to the shadow realm and was staring up at the lights, flat on his back, stiff as a board. And those are just the facts. It's what happened. I hate it. I didn't want to see it. Like I said, whenever I made my video immediately following the fight, I had been really sincerely hoping that Frankie would at least make it through the first round, so that he would have eclipsed 8 full hours of fight time inside the UFC octagon. I thought that was going to be a really neato place for the record to end, right? He's got the record for most fight time in the octagon, so I thought it'd be really cool for it to be not 7 hours 57 minutes or whatever. I thought it'd be cool for it to be 8 hours and a couple bits of change, but it is what it is, man. Frankie went out there and fought to the best of his ability, but only 2 minutes into the first round, and Chris Gutierrez hit him with, I believe it was a knee. I can't remember, man. I know it was rough. It was one of those shots where Frankie went to sleep hard, and Chris Gutierrez was just a class act about everything. Had all the respect in the world for Frankie Edgar. Joe wound up actually talking with Frankie after the fight. And, as Joe said, there are millions of people all over the world who have love for Frankie Edgar in their heart, myself included. He's been an intrinsic part of what's made MMA great to this point. God, I hate using that type of verbiage, but, he's been instrumental in making it special. He's had many a great fight, and the MMA wouldn't be the same without him. And so Frankie the Answer, we've seen him for the last time in the UFC octagon as a fighter, but the night of Chris Gutierrez's, He is now 19-3 with a win over someone like Frankie Edgar in the type of fashion that he did it. He's only going to have big fights in front of him. He's only going to be moving up that chain at bantamweight. We all know bantamweight's a shark tank. They got guys like Peter Yan, Aljamain Sterling up there at the top. So, it's going to be tough. We're going to see where he lands in the division the longer he goes. But I know he looked really impressive, and I'm really excited to see what they do with him next. And then this one right here, this was fight of the night, potential fight of the year. I actually don't know if it was fight of the night. I don't have that information in front of me. It's something I usually have. Oh, my high ass forgot to do that. That sucks. Again, like I keep telling y'all every time, I'm not a fucking professional. I keep fucking this up. I don't have that information in front of me. But either way, I know in my heart it was fight of the night, and I know in my heart it's a potential fight of the year contender. So we can speak from that perspective, right? And it was Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler, and it was just fucking fireworks, guys. It was everything that we all expected it to be. I mean, literally, like exactly how you'd expect it to go. Michael Chandler came out ferociously in the first round and hurt Dustin Poirier early on. But as the fight went on, Dustin Poirier slowly kind of took over. Even as early as the back half of the first round, it seemed as though Poirier was landing the higher volume of shots and to the greater effect. And I actually wound up having Dustin Poirier winning the first round. And as it turns out, that's also how every judge had it scored as well. So it was a clear win in the first round for Dustin Poirier. But then Michael Chandler came out in the second round and wrestle-fucked him the entire time. Had several minutes of control time. And threatened all kinds of chokes. And won the round. Flat ass out. On every card. And so it was clearly, all judges had the first round going to Dustin. All judges had the second round going to Chandler. It was all coming down to the third round. In the third round, they came out, met in the middle, and just fought like sons of bitches, man. Rock'em sock'em mixed martial artists is the bottom line. It was wild, and it just turned into a situation where they went to the ground and Dustin Poirier took Chandler's back and locked in a body triangle. And man, in the third round, you're tired. You got a black belt in Dustin Poirier on your back with a body triangle. It was a bad way for Michael Chandler, and so Dustin Poirier wound up locking up a rear naked choke, but it wasn't even under Chandler's chin. He just wound up stretching him out, and when he stretched him out, he was able to slip it under the chin, and that's whenever Chandler had to tap. So it was an incredible fight. I couldn't have asked for it to have been any better. The second round was like letting the beat build, right? We knew how crazy it was in the first round. The second round was grappling. What was going to happen in the third round, right? And they came out and it went the way it did. And you couldn't have scripted it better, in Josh's humble opinion. The next fight was Carla Esparza versus Zhang Weili, and Zhang Weili cut through Carla Esparza like a hot knife through butter. And, I picked Zhang Weili, but only for petty-ass reasons, dog, because I didn't like the way Carla Esparza went out there and performed against Rose Namajunas. But I also equally didn't like the way Rose Namajunas went out there and performed against Carla Esparza, right? It's a two-way street. It takes two to tango. I wasn't real high on Carla Esparza, and it was clear that Zhang Weili had the advantage in the striking department. When they were up on the feet fighting, it looked like Carla Esparza was just a step behind, almost flustered. Didn't look like she knew quite what to do with the puzzle that Zhang Weili was presenting her in the octagon. And then in the grappling, Carla's so experienced that even at the end of the first round, Carla at the end of the first round had the advantageous position because she's so technically sound and so intelligent in the grappling department that she was able to outmaneuver Zhang Weili. But Zhang was clearly the more explosive of the two. She was having a lot of, there was no holding her down, right? It just happened to be that's whenever the round, I think that when she got there, she wasn't even able to hold Zhang down for an entire minute. She wasn't even, it wasn't even a minute of control time, and Weili was able to get her off her, right? But again, Carla was so technical that she was able to get there in the first place, which I found really impressive. But again, Weili, just too explosive an athlete, was able to force her way out of a bad spot. And then the second round came around, and Weili just overwhelmed her and wound up choking her out. Yeah, choked her out. And that's that, man. And so Weili is now a champion for a second time. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do with her, man. Maybe they do another rubber match with Rose. Who knows? Who knows what they're going to do? It'll be interesting to see. I know I'm going to be keeping my eye on it. I doubt they do a rematch with Carla Esparza, though. And then on to the main event of the evening. I'm certain you guys can hear it in my voice. I'm not particularly pleased with how this one went. I was pulling for Israel Adesanya, right? He's like my guy with the anime shit that he's into, and there's just on several levels, man. I'm a big Israel Adesanya fan. But Alex Pereira came in and got it done. Every judge had it 3-1 for Israel Adesanya, so it came down to Alex had to get the finish in the 5th round. And Alex went out there and dumped his gas tank out and got it done. That's the bottom line. You could tell that he was throwing things with a little bit nastier intention in the 5th round. In the 5th round, you could also tell that he was throwing it with a little bit higher volume. You could just tell that Alex Pereira was going to throw everything that he had at Israel Adesanya in that 5th round. There was no 6th round to have to hold on to any gas for. You could tell he was trying to gas himself out. He was gonna go out on his shield, or he was gonna have nothing left. He wasn't gonna. You could tell that Alex Pereira was not gonna look back at that fight and think, "Damn, I left anything in that octagon." He was gonna have. He was gonna leave it all out there. He wasn't gonna have anything left in the tank. And he wound up catching Izzy, man. He caught him, dude, with that big left fucking hook that he keeps catching everybody with, and it backed Izzy up. Izzy wound up getting up against the cage and getting caught again by another big left hook. And he was bobbing and weaving and getting caught, and the ref stepped in and stopped it. And Israel immediately protested the stoppage, but, I mean, he wasn't even looking at Alex anymore. He was just looking down at the ground and kind of sluggishly bobbing and weaving. And I know, goddamn, a 300-pound guy says that the 185-pound middleweight champion is moving sluggishly. Goddamn. But I gotta speak frankly on it, man. He looked fucked up. He looked real fucked up. It's hard to convince me that you're really intelligently defending yourself whenever you're moving at half or less of your current. He was at 50% speed tops at the way he was moving. And he was literally looking down at the ground, not even looking at Alex anymore, just like on autopilot, bobbing and weaving. And, I feel like if he'd gotten caught with one more big left hand, he was going to be having a conversation at the pearly gates. He was going to be lights out. And so I wasn't upset with the stoppage. As I saw it, I wasn't upset with the stoppage. And even, I love Izzy, man. He's my dude. I hope he fucking comes back and gets the win, and I think he can, right? It's just one of those things where Alex Pereira's got that old school bricklayer strength, right? And he can end the fight at any moment, and it's like boxing with Deontay Wilder. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't have to be perfect at all. All he has to do is land one punch. You have to be perfect throughout the entire duration of the fight. And that's where it happened is Izzy was perfect for 20 plus minutes of the fight, and then that moment is all it took, and that's the magic of Alex Pereira. And so, I don't know, there was like an energy in the with this event. I was real high on Izzy, but then the further into the night we got, the weirder I felt about it. And then Izzy walked out and didn't do any cool walkout at all, and then didn't really put on any of the typical theatrics in the octagon during the announcement from Bruce Buffer, and it just felt very serious, right? It wasn't loose, flowing, fun Israel Adesanya that I've grown accustomed to seeing. It was almost tense, Which, granted, he looked loose in his movements, right? It looked like he was physically loose and able to do what he needed to do, but there was a tension that was being created with the way that he walked out without any theatrics, and the way that he wasn't having fun in there in the octagon before the fight. I had a feeling. And what's wild is that by the fifth round, I didn't have that feeling anymore. By the end of the fight, I was like, oh man, Izzy's got it. I really did think that Izzy had it, and that was a wrap. And yeah, whenever Alex did what he did, I was pretty goddamn shocked. But this clearly sets up the rematch, right? Izzy defended his belt five times. 5 times he defended his belt, which he wasn't able to beat Anderson Silva's record. So again, shout out to how good Anderson Silva was. But again, the times were different. MMA wasn't quite where it was. The level of competition that Anderson was fighting against, by and large, wasn't where the level of competition that Israel was fighting, etc., etc. There's so many ways to talk in circles around the circumstance to see who's better, Israel or Anderson. And they already fought, but Anderson was already over the hill, etc., etc. And also, he just got beat up by Jake Paul, which that's a whole other side everything. But either way, we've got a rematch coming between these two, and it's going to be fireworks, right? There's no way it doesn't do well on the PPV. This card was, they stacked it up. It was full of nothing but absolute bangers. I had a fantastic time. TKO, submission, TKO. Damn, the entire main card was nothing but finishes, y'all. 3 TKOs or knockouts and 2 submissions. So, big storylines, big finishes. You can't ask for anything better than that in a fight card. Moving forward, we've got a fight night between Derek Lewis and Sergey Spivak. This is one of those circumstances where my brain tells me one and my heart tells me the other. I can't pick against Derek Lewis. It's like in my DNA. It's part of my principles. So I'm picking Derek Lewis. Bottom line. Sergey Spivak, I picked against that guy in his last fight against a big Brazilian bastard. I can't remember his name. But Sergey looked amazing. If Sergey comes out and looks the way that he looked in his last fight. If he looks that way this fight, man, it's going to be a bad night at the office for Derek Lewis. But I also do believe that Derek Lewis is too big and strong to hold down, right? You've got to be technically perfect, like a DC, somebody like that who's big enough and strong enough and also technically able to circumvent his explosiveness, because Derek Lewis just stand up with you on his back like it ain't nothing. Right, so you have to be technically able to circumvent that ability, and not many people are able to, especially at heavyweight, because most people aren't used to having to circumvent that. They're used to being big enough and strong enough to hold people down. And so I think, in the grappling, Sergey is not going to be able to hold him down. And I think that Sergey is going to want to be in close on Derek Lewis, and that's a terrible place to be. And he's going to go night-night. End of story. Derek Lewis by knockout, my man. Then we've got a light heavyweight fight, Kennedy Nzechukwu and Ion Cutelaba. I'm not like insanely high on either of these guys, and for different reasons. Kennedy has all the physical tools in the world, but seems like he lacks a little bit of that killer instinct, right? Ion Cutelaba, kind of small for the division, kind of lacking some of the tools, but he's built like a brick shit house and is a fucking maniac, ready to bring the fire. So, but Eon's also kind of chinning, right? So, I gotta pick Kennedy. Kennedy's the bigger, more athletic guy. I think he'll come out and fight smart. And as long as Eon doesn't land a bomb on him, it should be good to go for Kennedy. If Eon lands a bomb, everyone's got a puncher's chance, especially someone like Cutelaba. Chase Sherman, Waldo Cortez Acosta. So Waldo Cortez Acosta, we saw him fight here recently, and he was a former pitcher from the Dominican Republic. He has a big right hand, but we haven't really seen too much out of him. He's only 8-0. Chase Sherman, 16-10, salty record, but been around for a long time with 26 professional fights. I do feel like the last fight that we saw Waldo in was a dog fight. It gave him some good experience. Let's keep the hype train going. Let's pick Waldo on this one. Muslim Sokolov, Andre Fialho. Gotta probably pick Muslim Sokolov on that one, to be honest. Jack Della Maddalena versus Danny Roberts. Probably gotta pick Jack Della Maddalena. Babaluba on that one. Then we got a fight night, Thompson versus Holland. Everybody keeps saying it's like a favorable matchup. I don't understand why. Like, in what world is a favorable matchup? Kevin Holland likes to stand and strike with boys. He's got, he's a pretty good grappler, but that is not like someone who comes out and takes people down and grapples, And so you're going to tell me that it's a favorable matchup for Kevin Holland to try and get into basically a kickboxing fight with Stephen Thompson? That's fucking crazy, dog. Stephen Thompson liable to light Kevin Holland the fuck up. Kevin Holland will have to figure out a way to close the distance, put him against the cage, get him to the ground, take advantage of his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Because otherwise, Stephen Thompson, it's like a case of y'all must have forgot. Because Stephen Thompson's a goddamn legend, especially whenever it comes to striking on the feet. So, yeah, dog, I probably got to pick Stephen Thompson on that one. As much as I love Kevin Holland, I hope I'm wrong. Like, my heart tells me Kevin Holland. I want Kevin Holland to win. Bruh, you're going to try and tell me you're going to win a striking fight against Stephen Thompson? No way. If Kevin Holland's smart enough to come out and grapple, and he can do that successfully, then it'll be Kevin Holland's night. But if he tries to stand there and throw 1-2s at Stephen Thompson, he's going to get a lesson in karate. Ryan Barberena and Rafael Dos Anjos. I got to pick Ryan Barberena on this one, man. The last couple times I've seen Ryan Barberena fight, he's been looking exceptional. That being said, RDA's been, we were talking earlier about Renato Moicano, how good he looked. and how the last time we saw him fight, he was getting his face run through the wood chipper that is Rafael dos Anjos. So it's one of those things. RDA's old, kind of getting over the hill a little bit. Ryan Barberena is young and crazy, on the come up, was in like a fight of the year contender in his most recent outing. So I just think he's going to put the pedal to the floor, and I think that they're going to step out of the center, and I think Ryan Barberena is going to be the one it's going to be a matter of who gets the other one backing up. I think Ryan Barberena is going to be able to get RDA backing up, and that's going to be the story of the fight. You got Mateus Nicolau versus Matthew Christopher Schnell. Probably got to take Mateus Nicolau on that one. How is Tai Tuivasa and Sergey Pavlovich so low on this card? And how is Derek Brunson and Jack Hermanson so low on this card? What the fuck is happening? UFC Fight Night, Thompson versus Holland. You got Stephen Thompson, Kevin Holland, Ryan Barberena, RDA, Mateus Nicolau, Matthew Christopher Schnell, Tai Tuivasa, Sergey Pavlovich, Derek Brunson, Jack Hermanson, Eric Anders, and Kyle Dawkins. Son of a bitch, this is going to be a good card. Damn it, man. But Tai Tuivasa was like literally fighting for a heavyweight championship, headlining a fight in Paris, and you've got him as the fourth fight down on the card, fighting below Mateus Nicolau. Am I tripping? Am I reading this right? What's happening right now? This can't be real. These dudes really got Tai Tuivasa fighting like in the middle of the card on a fight night. Damn, hope he's getting his bag at least. And he's fighting a dude like Sergey Pavlovich. That's like a bad man. Sergey Pavlovich, though, I don't know if he packs the power to put Tai Tuivasa out, to be really honest. And I don't know if he has the chin to make it 15 full minutes against that crazy son of a bitch throwing them bombs at him. So I think Tai Tuivasa will get the knockout, to be really honest. But Sergey Pavlovich is no slump. Derek Brunson, Jack Hermanson. We're going to see how this fight goes. I feel like we know what we're going to get out of Derek Brunson, but I don't know what to expect out of Jack Hermanson. I feel as though the last couple times I've seen him fight, he's been like moving backwards, fighting as a counter-striking kickboxer. And that ain't the Jack Hermanson that I came to know. Jack Hermanson I know would put you in a phone booth, put you in the clinch, and beat your ass. And I feel as though Derek Brunson's going to make him have to do that. And I don't necessarily know who's going to win. I feel like, depending on which version of Jack Hermanson shows up, it could be Jack's night. But I feel like Derek's more consistent. So I'm going to probably pick Derek Brunson on that one. We're going to see how that one goes. Pun's pick is Derek Brunson. Pun's picks. Let's probably start rolling with that. Pun's picks. I like that. Eric Anders, Kyle Dawkins. Eric Anders been kind of having a little bit of a tough go, man. He's super athletic, but seems like he's having a little bit of trouble finding ways to win in the octagon. And Kyle Dawkins is kind of the opposite. He seems like he isn't quite as physically gifted, but he finds a way to win. So I gotta probably pick Kyle Dawkins. Neat. What a dank ass card. Man, they're treating us. They're treating us in the month of December, dog. That's December 3rd. Let's go. And then we've got UFC 282 coming up, which, I'm not going to go too far off into all these because we're going to do an entire preview on this one. We got Yuri Prochazna and Glover in their rematch, which, it was a crazy fight last time. I think, generally speaking, anytime that the younger guy wins in a fight and then they go back and do the rematch, the younger guy comes back and wins in more emphatic fashion. And that's what I expect to happen this time. But I believe that Glover was winning that fight, until Yuri wound up getting the finish in the 5th round last time. So it's fucking who knows. You got Jan Blachowicz versus Magomed Ankalaev. Man, I'd love for Jan to win that fight. Magomed's a hard fight, probably going to get pretty boring. I guess I don't know who's going to win that. I'm probably going to pick Jan. Patty Pimblett, Jared Gordon. Man, Jared Gordon ain't no slouch. That's a big step up. It's like a similar type of matchup as to what they did to Molly Meatball here at 281. Which, by the way, Molly Meatball got her ass kicked. Got put in a crucifix and then got worked into a rear naked choke from a crucifix. It was wild. Ooh, Robbie Lawler, Santiago Ponzinibbio. That's for us. That's because we've been good fans. And then you got Bryce Mitchell versus Tuporia. I mean, shit, 15-1, 12-0. I can't pick against Bryce Mitchell. Anybody who made Dana bend the knee to camo shorts is my guy for life. But, so at this point, we've talked about the fights that happened between 280 and 281. We've covered 281. We've talked about the fights that are going to happen between 281, leading up to and including UFC 282. Now we can talk about some general bullshit that's happened around the world of mixed martial arts. And the first thing on my list is actually something really tragic that I was completely heartbroken to hear, and it's that Rumble Johnson is gone. He lost his battle with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is basically blood cancer. It makes it so that your white blood cells start attacking your red blood cells, and they can also get into your bone marrow and your spleen, and I believe your liver, your kidneys. They can get all over the place. And I mean, cancer's in your blood, dog. That's shit circulating everywhere, and so 38 gone. Crazy how that shit can take somebody so strong. You know, that guy was strong, and it took him, you know, and so just appreciate every breath you got, because you ain't guaranteed it tomorrow. I believe he was going in and getting a physical for a fight whenever they started to see the indicators for this stuff and actually got put on the trail. So, you know, the guy was healthy, in fighting shape, and then all of a sudden he wasn't, and now all of a sudden here we are. So, you know, man, there were a lot of like crazy fights with him in the octagon. I can't believe that guy ever made 170. That shit is insane. But rest in peace to him, and I hope that the people close to him that are being affected by it the most are finding the comfort and support that they need in this trying time. And so, you know, moment of silence for Rumble. And on to some more positive news. The Volko versus Islam Makhachev fight has been set for the Perth card in February. You can buy tickets for that shit, if I'm not mistaken, at this point. So, man, that's going to be a good fight. Volkanovski is definitely a tough son of a bitch to go up and try and fight somebody like Islam Makhachev, right? It's going to be a real test. But no negative can come of it for him, right? The worst case scenario is he goes up there, he gets finished, he comes back down to his weight class and goes, you know, they're bigger up there. I tried to challenge myself because they couldn't give me a challenge in my division anymore. Cool, whatever. Let me fight whoever just won this interim belt so that I can get my belt back and make it re-official, which, on the subject of the interim belts at 145, they're having Yair Rodriguez and Josh Emmett fight for it, which is a super interesting fight. You couldn't get, I say you couldn't get more contradicting styles, but you could. But they're unique, interesting, contradicting styles, right? Where Yair's free-flowing kicks, moving around a bunch, and Josh Emmett's just a fucking smasher. He wants to hit you in the face with a big right hand. So, It'll be interesting to see if the finesse of Yair or the strength of Emmett winds up getting them the interim belt. I can't even believe this is real as I'm reading it, even if it's in my notes and I've done my research on it. Jake Paul versus Andrew Tate. Let's go. I can't believe they're making that happen. I figured, like, because Andrew Tate's, like, deplatformed on everything. That guy's, like, considered toxic waste by media industry professionals. And Jake Paul's like, fuck it, I'll fight you. Let's go. So that's fun. I think that Jake at this point has done a really good job of reading the room, right? Because his most recent fight was his toughest test, and no one watched. You know what I'm saying? I think that everybody wants the circus. I think that Jake Paul needs to pander to the circus at this point because 200K PPV buys for him to go out there and fight Anderson Silva. I don't know if that juice is worth the squeeze necessarily. So, if you can go out there and fight people who are less credentialed, who have more clout on their name and make more money by beating up celebrities and shit, I'd go for it. Which Andrew Tate isn't just a celebrity. He's a legit world champion kickboxer, from back in the day, but it's not Anderson Silva. There were some altercations across the MMA world here recently. I don't really care about this shit too much, but they did in fact happen. There was an altercation between Nate Diaz and Dylan Dennis and some members of Dylan Dennis's entourage, and Nate wound up slapping the shit out of one of them, which was great. Kevin Holland wound up getting into some type of an altercation with someone who appeared to be part of Kamaru Usman's entourage. As they were separating, Kevin Holland was saying that he was an actor. So maybe the guy's an actor, I don't know. I tried to do a little bit of Googling on it, didn't really find much of anything on it. Fun callback, I mentioned I made a comparison to Alex Pereira to Deontay Wilder, and speaking on the subject of Deontay Wilder, they've now set a fight between Deontay Wilder and Anthony Ruiz to see who's going to fight Tyson Fury. So that's interesting. Ruiz has undergone a pretty incredible physical transformation with his workout and stuff, but it's crazy to me that he looks in better shape now, but that isn't the version of him that won the world championship, right? The one with the beer belly won the world championship. So it's like, is it really to his benefit as a boxer? We're going to see. And one fun thing I saw is that Cheeto Vera got a new tattoo on his head. It's like a panther. And I believe he also got some type of fucking scorpion thing. But that's the last thing I got on my list. I feel like we've pretty much covered it all, right? Reviews of everything from 280 to 281. Previews of everything from the fights following 281 up to and including 282. Talked about some bullshit that's going on around the world of sport, and the humbling news about Rumble Johnson. And I believe with that, we can call it a wrap. Everybody, I appreciate y'all so much. Armchair Army, thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.
Monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth.